What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I have somebody very special with me. Hugo, I want to say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, this is Hugo from Running for Tacos.
So if you guys have been in the shop or have called us before, Hugo's going to be the guy that you guys will most likely talk to. So today in front of us, as you guys can see here, we have a bunch of shocks. What we're going to do now is we're going to start a new series about comparing different parts, and in this series we're going to be comparing shocks. We're going to do probably 3 videos. This one here is going to be the entry level suspension kits that you guys can buy, and then we'll do the next one, which will be a mid-tier, and then the top tier for an OEM fitment. So when I say OEM fitment, I mean everything is direct bolt on. You literally take the factory stuff out, put these in, you don't have to do anything else. And then there's going to be other stuff like long travel and a bunch of other stuff you could do to it, obviously, but we're going to be focusing on the OEM fitment stuff. And I have Hugo with me because Hugo has been in this industry way longer than I have, and pretty much anybody here, and he is the most knowledgeable person to talk to us and explain everything that's in front of us here. So with that being said, we're going to start all the way over here on the left side. This is a factory coilover, well, not coilover, a strut. This is a strut here, and then the rear shock. So Hugo, you want to tell us a little bit about this? Obviously there is a Bilson sticker on it, so you guys know these are made by Bilson, which is a super well-known company, and that's why Toyo decided to work with them.
Yeah, so pretty much this is a old school traditional Bilson 4600. You can see the diameter, it's 1 inch. Bilson specifically tuned these shocks for Toyota, either Tacoma, some Tundras have them, and there is a few 4Runners that might have these too, and FJ Cruisers as well. Anything pretty much that it's a Prado 120 or Prado 150 platform in most cases. The shocks are made by Bilson, but they're specifically tuned for Toyota. Now these shocks are pretty good. They last a long time, but they are not the strongest ones. Now different configurations that you can do with this shock. There is some companies that will do a lifting spring that you can get about 2.5 inches of lift with these springs, but at that point you're sacrificing ride quality, suspension travel, and stuff of that nature, but you gain the lift while maintaining your factory shocks. Other than that, a very nice upgrade on the entry level side will be, Tuan, if you don't mind, will be your classic Bilson 5100. As you can see, the shock diameter, it's a little bit bigger. This one, it's a 2-inch diameter shock body. You can compare the difference right there. These ones are specifically valve and tune more on the digressive side, but they are considered a factory replacement shock. So these 5100s will replace the 4600s, giving you a little bit more performance as well. And using your factory spring, you can use these circlip settings right here. Some of them have 6, some of them have 7, depending on what part number you get. Make sure, speaking of part numbers, make sure you get the proper part number for your vehicle, because Bilson has like 50, 60 different part numbers, even on 6112s and stuff. So on the top C-clip setting, you'll see about 2.5 inches of lift. On the bottom C-clip setting is your stock ride height. This is compatible with your factory spring rate. So what we do, we pretty much, the top, there we go. When you assemble them, you can actually open the C-clip setting a little bit, put it on the desired ride height. You put the spring perch, put the spring, use a spring compressor, of course, factory top hat.
And then, so with this one, once you put on the bottom piece, you use either your factory coil, or you can purchase one and install with this. So most people, since this is an entry-level kit, most people will reuse their spring, put it on here, reuse your top hat, or you can also purchase an aftermarket top hat like this one here, which is made by KYB. And a service that we just started offering is assembly. So if you guys purchase something like this and a coil, and a top hat. We can actually fully assemble this for you, ship it to you, and you guys can just take the factory shock or strut out and put this one in.
Now, these shocks also can serve you as leveling kits. If you're planning on lifting the truck, I usually recommend move it all the way to the top, get about a 2-inch spring on the rear end or an 1.5 inches, so you gain a little bit more clearance to fit larger tires as well. This component, like I said, it's factory replacement part, so you can definitely use factory upper control arms, but geometry wise, for every inch of lift that you gain, you lose 1 degree of caster. So we always recommend to upgrade those upper control arms, especially with larger tires with a little bit of offset and stuff of that nature. So these shocks, like I said, are tuned more on the aggressive side. Entry level, they're a great first setup for somebody that is starting overlanding or off-roading. Yeah.
Now, when you say digressive, what does that mean?
So digressive shocks, usually that means that the faster you go, the softer they get, but there is 2 kinds of digressive shocks. The one that Bilson uses, it's more like factory-like ride quality. Icon is also a digressive shock, but these ones are more racing oriented. So technically, any shock that is rebuildable, you can turn them into a progressive shock, into a linear shock, into a digressive shock, depending on your specific needs and driving manners. Okay, so these ones, once again, are tuned mostly for factory-like ride quality. Okay, these ones are tuned a little bit more for racing. Fox and King, those are the 2 big guys. They are mostly on the linear side.
Gotcha. So this one, a 5100, would not be rebuildable, right? Because I see they're welded, and it's all pretty much a one piece, so it wouldn't be rebuildable, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, these shocks are not rebuildable. That's why they're entry level. Once a shock starts leaking or giving you issues, get it out, put it in the trash, and replace it.
Gotcha.
But that time when this shock needs to be replaced, you already have a game plan of what's your next move.
You might want to upgrade.
Exactly, and that way you know how much weight you'll be adding to the vehicle, what kind of terrain you want to travel, pretty much, and then you choose the proper selection.
Okay.
But this is a perfect entry-level setup. Now, another one that I want to talk about, let's move down to Australia. So you're going to have Omenemu and Dobinsons, okay? These 2 are pretty much the pioneers of the industry when it comes to overlanding. Okay,
so the first thing I noticed, they look almost the same.
Exactly.
Except this bottom strut piece is welded on, where this one is separate.
Exactly. Yeah, you have a special spring perch with Omenemu.
Okay.
It's like a cup which allows the spring to sit inside of it. So if you are in through really rough terrain and stuff like that, the spring is not moving. It's nice and secure over here. They do offer another really cool thing, a trim packer. It sits right underneath the spring perch, like so. This is for vehicles that have a little bit of a driver's side lean. You know, before you assemble it, or whatever shop it's assembling, make sure you have this the trim packer, and that will fix your driver's side lean. One really cool thing about Omenemus is that they offer a ton of options when it comes to springs. Okay, in this case, this one is an 8A6. So with Omenemu, most of the springs are about 590 pounds. Most of them, some of them are actually 720 pounds, some of them are 650, some of them are even heavier.
That's the spring rate, right?
The spring rate, correct.
Okay.
But what Omenemu likes to do, it's depending on how much weight you carry, naturally you can always call us or call the manufacturer directly. They will give you the proper spring length. The difference on each spring, it's about 20 to 25 millimeters on length. So which is reflected on 2-to-1 ratio when it comes to lifting a vehicle. So if you have a ton of weight, I will recommend you to do research on Omenemu Springs. And always, very, very important, make sure you pair Omenemu Springs with Omenemu shocks. Here is the reason why.
So you don't want to mix and match.
Exactly, you don't. These shocks are twin tubes, Dobinsons and Omenemus. Therefore, they're slightly thicker, correct?
Okay.
So with that being said, usually twin tube shocks, they run more at lower pressures. Like Bilson 5100 is about 250 psi internally.
Okay.
These ones are about 40 to 50, maybe 60 psi. Okay, so they absorb impacts really nice and soft, but the rebound is more on the slower side. Not a big fan of higher speed stuff because naturally the psi is too small. These two configurations are mostly designed to carry weight.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of customers through the years in this industry, they call me and they say, oh, my Omenemu suspension rides really stiff. And then when I ask them what shock they have, because they have several part numbers for valving on shocks too.
Okay.
Some of them for stock weight of the vehicle and some of them for added weight on the vehicle. And naturally you have to pair it with a proper spring.
Gotcha.
Once they give me those part numbers, they have like a water and oil type configuration, so either they have to change the shock or they have to replace the spring. Okay, and this is another reason why these shocks actually last a little bit longer, because they're low pressure. Both great companies, very similar. Omenemu also offers the BP51 suspension, which is going to be for a next video.
Okay.
Dobinson's of course offers three different other configurations, but these will land on their entry-level section of it. Somebody that is just starting, somebody that wants something affordable and reliable while carrying a bunch of weight.
Okay. So when you mentioned the twin tube,
yeah,
what does that exactly mean?
So twin tube, these two O's are monotube. That means that you only have one tube, and the shock rod with the valve inside, right? It just goes in out. Twin tube means that you have a tube inside of the shock, and on the outsides, somewhere about actually over here, you have two external chambers that hold a little bit more fluid. Okay, so and then you have a valve down here, so when the shock is rebounding, it absorbs the fluid, so you keep it at cooler temperatures. It's sort of speaking like you have an internal remote reservoir.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So as far as the size, the Dobinson's and the Omenemu is slightly bigger.
Yeah, about a quarter inch. Yes, sir.
To make up for that the secondary tube.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Very
exactly. And also you might notice some Toyota trucks, they come with black shocks, the Tokiko shocks. Those ones are also twin tube as well. That's why they're 2 inches and a quarter. Yeah.
Okay, so Dobinson's, Omenemu, Bilson 5100s, they all don't come with top hats.
They don't.
So you have to use the factory one, or get the KYB one.
Correct.
Or let us know and we can rebuild that or build that for you. So it's a little bit cheaper. They save a little bit of cost. I guess they pass that savings on to the customer. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Another 2.0 shock that actually I like a lot, it's a Bilson 5160. So you notice it's a 2-inch diameter as well, but this one is also valve on the digressive side, but it's a little more of a performance shock. Let me explain you about remote reservoirs. So here you have an IFP, internal floating piston, sitting somewhere on this area. All the remote reservoirs, or most of them, they have about 30% fluid over here, and the rest is nitrocharger, gas, or whatever they want to refill it with, depending on the manufacturer. So that gives you more room to add more fluid internally. Okay, so when the shock is under a lot of stress, especially a fully compressed at higher speeds, that fluid needs to go somewhere, correct? So it travels through the hose, comes over here, that internal floating piston starts moving, and then it pushes everything back down, eliminating shock cavitation, or I like to say air bubbles. You know, it's like when you're boiling water, the shocks also get overheated. So this helps you actually keeping the internals of the shock at cooler temperatures. I like to recommend 2.5-inch diameter shock bodies or something with reservoirs for vehicles that are heavy loaded, you know, because I always mention to customers too, when you're fully loaded and you hit a pothole, you're gonna hit it 10 times harder than the guy that doesn't have any weight. So you don't wanna overheat the shocks.
Okay, so this is more of a mid-tier setup, but the reason why we have it in this video is because it is a 2.0 body, but it does have a remote reservoir. So that's a plus right there. Okay.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Locked right over here. So this company, we started carrying these shocks, very nice looking coilovers. they are right hand adjustable. Okay, they're fully rebuildable. They can be fully tuned. We can play with the spring rate actually directly from the manufacturer. We can actually tell them what spring rate you want, and they can valve and tune the shock specifically for you to be used with that spring rate that you chose.
Okay.
This will be considered your entry-level adjustable coilover per se. Yeah, since it's extended travel as well, that means that you gain another, what, quarter inch, half of an inch more. So highly recommended to use upper control arms. Okay. Right hand adjustable. Out of the box, it comes with a 600-pound spring rate. Okay. So it's perfect for a stock weight vehicle. This coilover can be adjusted all the way up to 3 inches of lift, and like I said, you can play with the spring rate. We can valve and tune the shocks for you directly from the manufacturer, fully rebuildable. If you noticed another thing, they don't have a bushing, a rubber bushing on the bottom. It comes with a hind bearing joint.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So like this Bilson one.
Exactly.
Has a rubber in that one. Okay.
Exactly. Very entry level.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more than an entry level.
So this would be, I guess, the top of the entry level list. Okay.
Correct, yeah. And of course there is other manufacturers out there that offer 2.0s with a right hand adjustability, rebuildable, and all that stuff. And we can get you any kind of suspensions pretty much here running for tacos, and we can explain you the difference too.
Okay.
And this is tuned more on the linear side. A little bit more on the linear side, yeah.
Explain linear.
So linear, with aggressive shocks, when you take an impact, it goes up and steady. Linear, it starts really slow and literally stays linear. So they need a lot more force to be compressed, okay? But they are really nice and smooth traveling through washboards and stuff of that nature, because a washboard, your tire is literally doing this for a million times. You know, you are taking impacts, but not enough to compress the full shock.
Gotcha.
Okay, so these ones actually will give you a little bit more stability at higher speeds.
Okay.
With other digressive shocks like Icon really enjoys higher speeds. They are valve and tune on the digressive, but different valving than the Bilsons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Icon, this one is more of a mid-tier 2.0 anyways, right? Okay.
Correct.
And the reason why we have this one in this entry-level video is because it is a 2.0. But you guys will see this, and we'll talk more about this one and the Bilson 5160 in the next video. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Now on the other entry-level shock, we got Fox 2.0. So very similar as a Locked. This one maximum can handle 2 inches of lift. So this is for somebody that wants to just level out the front with the back of the vehicle. We compare the rear shocks. The rear shocks are also good for like 0 to 1 inches of lift. These ones are good for 0 to 2 on the rear end. These will be considered more of an entry-level leveling kit. Okay,
gotcha.
Somebody that doesn't want to lose the right quality, wants better handling, less nosedive, and stuff like that. These will be fantastic.
But just leveling it out.
Just leveling it out. Yeah.
Could you fit a slightly bigger tire with that?
Yes, for 2 inches. So the lift out of the suspension gives you more clearance to fit larger tires. Cool. But with 2 inches, yeah, you know, I wouldn't do 35s. Yeah. I mean, unless if you want to cut a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Fox and Locked are probably at the very top of this entry-level list.
Yes.
Okay. The only difference between Fox and Locked is Fox only does up to 2 inches in the front and 1 inch lift in the back, where Locked would go up to 3 inches in the front and 2 inches in the back. So Locked, depending on the price, Locked might be a better choice if you guys want to go that full 3 inches and 2 inches in the back. Fox would be great for if you just want to level it out, pretty much.
Correct.
But yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, a little summary. What would you say, Twan? Which one was your favorite?
So I guess this is the part where we kind of pick. So if we basically just had a bone stock Tacoma, 4Runner, whatever, I would probably be doing the 5100s. If my budget was the lowest, this is probably the most affordable 5100s. That way you reuse the top hat, reuse the coil, basically reuse everything. Set this can go all the way up to 2.5, where Fox can only go to 2 inches.
Yeah.
So you can get a little more lift out of this one. But if I wanted to level it, maintain basically factory ride quality, which is like buttery smooth, I would probably go with Fox, do the 2 inch lift in the front, 1 inch lift in the back, and have that super comfortable ride quality.
Yeah.
The Bilson would be a little bit rougher, but you do get a little more height out of it. So I guess it really depends. And then Dobinson's and Omenemu, those two would be my choice if I wanted to have a heavier setup. Obviously, both of them can still go to 3 inches, right?
Correct. 2.5, about 2.5. Yeah.
Okay, 2.5. Omenemu, Dobinson's 2.5 in the front. And then depending on what you choose in the rear, you can do 1.5 to 2 inches in the rear?
1.5 to 2, yeah.
Okay. So Dobinson's and Omenemu would be my choice if I had a heavier
vehicle
setup. Yeah. But I do want an affordable suspension system.
Right.
Okay.
See, and I'm glad you are mentioning different situations, because a lot of customers, they called us to get advice, or they send us emails, hey, what's the best suspension for overlanding? We don't know what are your specific needs. That's why you need to call us. We are going to ask you a million questions. How much constant weight you're going to be adding in the vehicle, if you're planning on adding a bumper, a winch, skid plate, star size, all that stuff, because all of these brands are incredible. They are super reliable as long as you use them right and you use them for what they're designed for.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm glad you touched that subject right there, because when somebody asks us what's the best suspension for overlanding, we don't know where you live, we don't know your off-roading style, if you're going to be rock crawling, more like a washboard type guy, or just camping,
or you're just driving it on the streets.
Exactly. So
and you just want that bigger lift, bigger tires, comfortable ride, and basically you never go off-road. Different situations for everybody.
Exactly.
So these are all amazing brands, like Hugo was saying. But definitely give us a call or choose based on the information you guys got from this video. But if you guys want more information, we'll have different videos on the mid-tier and the top tier. We'll have a different video on upper control arms. We'll have a different video on the rear lift, because the rear shocks will not give the rear a lift. This is just to dampen the ride in the rear. So the rear lift, depending on the vehicle, if you have a 4Runner, it's going to be the coil. Very similar to the front coil, but a lot bigger. And then on a Tacoma, it'll be a leaf pack or an add a leaf. Once you start doing that, it's a whole different thing. There's a lot of moving parts. So we can definitely help you guys out with that. And Hugo is super knowledgeable. We do lift kits here every single day, different setups, different situations. So definitely give us a call if you guys have questions, but be on the lookout for those other videos, and hopefully we answered as many questions as we can in this video. But if you guys have questions for the mid-tier suspension kits and the top tier, be sure to leave it in the comments. That way we can address those questions in the next video, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Hugo, thank you so much for being knowledgeable with all of this and educating me during this video, along with you guys. So I appreciate that, Hugo.
Yeah, no problem.
And hopefully you guys subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.
Take care.